Hello. Today I will be talking about the Libyan Revolution and whether it does or does not have connections to the Enlightenment. My main research question is to what extent do ideas developed during the Enlightenment relate to the mindset of the Libyan people and inspire them to revolting. To begin with, I will explain the situation Libya found themselves in as of February 2011. The Libyan Revolution was a period of conflict in 2011 between two armed forces, the rebels and the people supporting Gaddafi. The situation began at the start of 2011 after the Arab Spring had begun and leaders in other Arab countries were being overthrown and had become vulnerable. The people of Libya had been unsatisfied with Gaddafi's tenure as ruler, as he had been ruler for 42 years. And because of the upcoming Arab Spring, the Libyans saw it as a very good chance at overthrowing Gaddafi and were eager to find current reasons to spark this revolution. In January 2011, news of ongoing corruption and the incompletion of public housing arose, and a small group of people protested. Although the government replied to protests by completing the construction of various public houses, people saw it as a platform to build on, and one they were willing to build on. Over time, this small group of people would have grown in size, and protests would begin to intensify. A few weeks later, another group of rebels returned, and this time they weren't fighting for public housing. They were demanding that Gaddafi step down as ruler. The rebels attacked the military and Gaddafi's loyalists, and over time violence had become a large aspect of the war, and protests had turned into revolts, thus sparking the Libyan Revolution. Inspired by what they had seen in their fellow Arab countries, Tunisia and Egypt, the rebels were very determined, and because of this, even regular citizens such as teachers and paramedics would soon develop artillery and weaponry skills which would help them in bringing down Gaddafi's government. Although the rebels showed great determination, none of their efforts would have proved successful without help from international countries such as the US and most especially NATO. Eventually, Tripoli was captured by the rebels, Gaddafi was killed, and Libya had been liberated. My main argument is that ideas developed during the Enlightenment relate to the mindset of the Libyan people and inspire them to revolting to a large extent. The first Enlightenment idea I will be relating is egalitarianism. Egalitarianism is the idea that all humans are equal and have equal access to certain things such as rights. Throughout Gaddafi's grueling 42-year tenure as leader of Libya, although he continuously preached about equality for people, he never seemed to quite understand and take into account the idea of egalitarianism, or that all people were equal and deserved equal rights, because he continuously oppressed people, placing himself above other officials and leaders, and not giving the people the freedom in so many areas, and even going to the extent of executing people who didn't like his form of leadership and government. Another idea that can be related to the Libyan people's mindsets is republicanism. Republicanism is an idea of a form of government where the people get to choose their leader, and the leader is a representative of the people. Because of Gaddafi's enforcement as ruler of Libya, people never got the chance to choose who they actually wanted to rule as a leader. Gaddafi had diminished the idea of political parties and instead set up people's committees, he called them. But these committees were run so poorly to the extent where being a dissident towards Gaddafi's views and political theories could get you in prison. The Republican mindset of the people during the Enlightenment can be seen in the context of the Libyan Revolution. Just like Louis XVI, Gaddafi had made himself ultimate ruler of the kingdom, weakened foreign and international relations between Libya and other countries, and lost complete faith of the people. All this was toppled with Gaddafi's insistence on being leader of Libya. Because of all this, the people would have wanted a new form of government, just like in France during Louis XVI's reign, where the people would be able to choose their leader and wouldn't have their leader chosen for them. In other words, republicanism. Finally, the Enlightenment idea of protecting people can be seen in the mindset of the Libyan people. Locke believed that the people could self-govern themselves, and the job of the government was to ensure certain things such as respecting their rights and making sure their rights were always available and protecting them from physical attacks, etc., etc. Having said this, Gaddafi failed woefully in protecting his people, which is one of the important and significant objectives of any leader. Gaddafi was unable to protect his people in two major aspects: physically and their reputation. For starters, the reputations of Libyans all over the world had been hugely dented, and Gaddafi was unable to do anything about it. Terrorist attacks carried out in the United States and other foreign countries led Libyans to being described as terrorists. This would have hurt Libyans both in Libya and especially abroad, as thus decreased the percentage of nationalists, which doesn't even help Gaddafi. Physically, Gaddafi was always a threat to the people, always. Even during the earlier stages of his tenure, he committed he committed execution of dissidents all over the world. This also has showed he couldn't protect their rights as humans. On the other hand, Enlightenment ideas listed do not relate to the mindset of the Libyan people in any way. This differs to the Libyan people because the Libyan people had the knowledge to know that they could change the ways of the leader, and yet they hesitated for 42 years. In addition to that, unlike Louis XVI, Gaddafi had a lot of positive impacts earlier on in his tenure, and even later on as well, such as making electricity free and available to all, increasing literacy rate, improving the country's overall GDP. The Libyan people's mindsets actually relates and wants to be like that of the Western society. Although Gaddafi had blessed them with so many of the privileges that the Western societies which they envy do not even have, such as free healthcare and free education, the people still wanted to be like them. And this is mainly because of the US and Obama's uh, influence on Libya's democratic parties. In conclusion, Enlightenment ideas relate to the mindset and motives of the Libyan people during the Libyan Revolution and inspired them to revolting to a high extent. The ideas of egalitarianism, republicanism, and protection of the people are the main ideas that relate to the mindset of the Libyan people because they were all trying to get fair elections, a fair government that saw everyone in society as equal because Gaddafi has stamped himself as head of all government aspects and things related to Libya, which they did not believe was right. This revolution was a chance for them to implement all these ideas, philosophies in their government, ideas which have been passed on from the Enlightenment. Vernon Oram, reporting live from Tripoli. Thank you.